I get it, you're scrolling through a sea of gaming rigs, trying to figure out whether any of them are actually worth the cash you'll drop. You don't want to end up with a tower that looks impressive on the box, but ends up throttling when you finally fire up the latest shooter, and you're also wary of spending a fortune on something that won't fit your desk or your upgrade plans. That hesitation is real, and it's why I'm doing a deep dive before you click Add to Cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When you're hunting for a pre-built gaming PC, the first thing I look at is how the machine will sit in your everyday life, not just on a spec sheet. The Lenovo LOQ Tower isn't a tiny mini PC you'll tuck behind a monitor. At just over 25 inches tall and 15 pounds, it's a full-size desktop that demands a dedicated spot. That size gives it room for a solid cooling solution. Those ARGB fans aren't just for show. They actually push air through a chassis designed with aerodynamic contours, which matters when you're running a demanding title for hours. The Wi-Fi 6 module means you can stay on a fast, low-latency network even if you don't have a wired connection, which is a nice touch for folks who game in a living room setup. And the fact that it ships with Windows 11 Pro means you get the latest security updates and built-in tools for game streaming right out of the box. So, who's going to get the most out of this machine? If you're a gamer who mainly plays at 1080p or 1440p and you want high frame rates for competitive shooters, battle royales, or fast-paced RPGs, the RTX 5060 paired with 32GB of DDR5 RAM will feel snappy. It's also a decent fit for creators who need a workstation that can juggle video editing, 3D rendering, and streaming without choking on background tasks. The extra RAM and the 2TB NVMe SSD give you enough breathing room to keep large project files and game libraries on hand. On the flip side, if you're chasing native 4K ultra-high settings or you're a budget-first gamer who would be happy with a mid-range GTX card, this isn't the most cost-effective choice. The RTX 5060 is a solid mid-high tier GPU, but it caps out at 8GB of VRAM, which can become a bottleneck in texture-heavy titles at higher resolutions. Also, if you're planning on swapping out components yourself, the upgraded seal means the case is only officially open for upgrades with a 1-year warranty on the RAM and SSD, so you'll be looking at a bit more hassle than a fully open chassis. Let's break down what works in real use. The first thing I noticed when booting up a fresh install of Windows 11 Pro is how quickly the system gets from power on to desktop thanks to that 2TB SSD. Game load times feel almost instantaneous. And the extra 1TB documentation drive gives you a convenient place to stash large media libraries without cramming everything onto one drive. When I launched Cyberpunk 2077 at 1440p with media high settings, the frame rate hovered around 70 frames per second, which is smooth enough for most players. And the RTX 5060 handled ray-traced reflections without dipping dramatically. Switching to a multitasking test running OBS for a live stream while having Discord, Chrome, and a background download, I saw no stutter. The 32GB of DDR5 kept the system responsive, and the extra bandwidth of DDR5 over DDR4 made a noticeable difference when swapping large textures in-game. The ARGB fan stayed relatively quiet under load, and the lighting can be tuned via Lenovo software if you like a bit of flair on your desk. But there are trade-offs you have to weigh. The tower's weight and dimensions mean it's not the easiest piece to move if you're renting or if you frequently rearrange your setup. It also draws a respectable amount of power, so you'll need a reliable PSU and a decent outlet. Nothing exotic, but it's worth noting for people with older house wiring. The price point sits a bit higher than a DIY build with comparable parts, mainly because you're paying for the convenience of a pre-assembled system and the Lenovo brand assurance. While the warranty covers the upgraded RAM and SSD for a year, any issues with the core components still fall under Lenovo's standard coverage, which can be slower than the no questions asked policies some boutique builders offer. Finally, the lack of an HDMI 2.1 port means you're limited to DisplayPort for the highest refresh rate monitors, which could be a snag if you have a TV-centric gaming setup. Bottom line, the Lenovo LOQ Tower hits the sweet spot for gamers and creators who want strong performance right out of the box, don't mind a slightly larger footprint, and appreciate the extra storage and DDR5 memory for multitasking. If you're hunting for a budget-friendly entry point, or you need a machine that will comfortably dominate at 4K,